Hi guys, Paul Nowak, the General Secretary of the TUC, ruffled a few feathers with his speech where he called out Nigel Farage as a traitor to the working class. Paul started out by saying that he doesn't believe most Reform UK voters are racist. However, he reinforced the point that the head of the party/company is no friend of working people. While politicians are clearly terrified of Nigel Farage, it seems the job of calling out this charlatan falls to people like Paul and Mick Lynch from the RMT. Have a listen.
I don't believe for one moment that most of those who voted Reform at the last election are racist. But let me say this clearly and unequivocally. Nigel Farage isn't a friend of the working class. He's a fraud. A public school educated, private equity loving, NHS privatising, Putin apologist fraud. My granddad Joe came to Britain with the Polish RAF and played his part in the fight against fascism 8 decades ago. In May, I found myself in southern Poland, boarding an overnight train to Kyiv to meet our sister unions. I visited a power station razed to the ground by Russian rockets. I saw city apartment blocks destroyed by missile strikes. And I visited the Children's Hospital in Kyiv and met some of those at the sharp and very human end of war. People like Katya, 14 years old, who was wounded by the Russian shelling that killed her mother. 6 weeks after my visit, Putin bombed that same children's hospital. Operating theatres wrecked. Kids with cancer traumatised. Doctors and nurses hunting through the rubble for their colleagues. So when I see Farage making excuses for Putin's illegal and indefensible invasion of Ukraine, it turns my stomach. Congress, I'll say it again, the far-right hate-mongers are no friends of the working class. They're not patriots, they are frauds.
Well said, Paul. Well said. You know, there are other ways that Nigel Farage isn't a friend of the working class. He pretends to support workers, but he's railed against trade unionists, the actual bodies fighting to protect workers and their rights. He claims he wants British jobs for British people, but he's against raising taxes to fund training in fields like healthcare, or he's against higher taxes for councils that would support higher wages in social care and more investment in social care. He helped deliver Brexit, which directly has called for the bonfire of rules and regulations, many of which are designed to protect workers. Remember P&O ferries. So he wants many people on benefits to be kicked off, to be forced into low-paid employment. He supports policies like that. He supports tax cuts for the rich and cuts to people receiving assistance from the state, the poorest, and in many cases the working class. For example, considering 40% of people on benefits are actually working. If he was in power, working people would be worse off. He's there to use issues like immigration to convince working class people that he's on their side, when his goal is to deliver more money to the pockets of the richest people in society like himself. He has found a niche. He's good at speaking. When it comes to Putin, of course, he admires people like that. People who will run roughshod over human rights, who will ignore the working class, will use the working class to get into power, will use the working class to enrich himself and others. Can you imagine Nigel Farage as Prime Minister? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.